IMF Extended Fund Facility. However, elections are still far from being a reality. The elections have been postponed again. When, if not will, elections be held here in Sri Lanka? We've got the details of these stories and much more lined up for you tonight. But first, a look at your top story.
Postal voting for the local government election delayed again. 7 state-owned enterprises including SLIC and Litrogas to undergo divestment process. Basil summons SLPP leaders and discusses ways to penetrate village for the election. Schools will be made an essential service if necessary, says President. Chinese fuel, US fertilizer and Indian eggs reach Colombo. Imported milk powder and fertilizer prices reduced. Sri Lanka's Election Commission said that postal voting for the local government election has been postponed again. The announcement was made following talks with political party representatives in Colombo today.
Sri Lanka's Election Commission said that 4 important matters were presented by the political party representatives during a meeting on Thursday morning. 1. As it is not possible to hold the local government polls on April 25th under the current situation, postponing the polls to a future date. 2. Fixing the date for the polling after achieving the necessary facilities and background for local government polls without mentioning a specific date. 3. As there are legal issues regarding the postponement of the polling, as per the interim orders given by the court, the election should not be postponed in any way. 4. Regarding the holding of the election, the legislature will discuss with the executive and other parties and decide a future date for the poll based on the consensus that is reached among them. After taking these facts into consideration, the Commission announced that it will study the relevant election laws and reach a decision regarding the election date in the near future.
We made it clear that the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumuna always called for an election. We will not support to delay the elections.
We discussed on conducting the elections as soon as possible and everyone agreed.
The Election Commission pointed out that they and their families continue to receive threats. The government is delaying the election. I don't think the Supreme Court will allow the president to do what he pleases.
ඉන්න ආණ්ඩුවේ පැත්තේ මං හිතන්නේ නෑ ජනාධිපතිවරයාට හිතන දේවල් කරන්න ඕන දේවල් කරන්න ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණ ඉඩ ලබා දෙයි කියලා
කොමිසම පැත්තෙන් පැහැදිලි කරා.
The Commission made it clear that the President, Cabinet and several other officials are not allowing for the elections to take place. Circulars are issued based on Cabinet decisions. One says that the Election Commission is not capable of doing this and they are retaining private counsels and that permission from the Finance Ministry is necessary to do that. Ranil Wickremesinghe decides and the Cabinet approves and a circular is issued on that. The Attorney General is not appearing for them. So when they retain private counsels, circulars are being sent stating that the Finance Ministry and Justice Ministry approval is necessary. This is a chain reaction to block the election.
අධිකරණ අමාත්‍යාංශයේ මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශයේ අවසර ගන්න එක. දැන් පේනවාද මේ මැතිවරණය බ්ලොක් කිරීමට අදාළව මැතිවරණයේ නොපැවැත්වීමට අදාළ චේන් එකක ආකාරයෙන් උඩ ඉඳන් පල්ලෙහාට එනවා.
සල්ලි නැහැ කියන්නේ කොහොමද පුතා? මැතිවරණයට අවශ්‍ය කරලා තියෙන්නේ බිලියන 4ක විතර ප්‍රමාණයක්. ඊයේ 15 වෙනිදාම බිලියන 132ක සල්ලි ඔච්චර ගෙවුවා. බිලියන 4 දෙන්න බැරි කොහොමද? මම කියන්නේ මැතිවරණ කොමිසම දැන් කියන්නට ඕනේ මේක කරන්න දෙන්න නැත්නම් කරන්න දෙන්න නැහැ කියලා ප්‍රසිද්ධ ප්‍රකාශයක් කරන්න ඕනේ. මේ ආකාරයට ස්වාධීන කොමිසමකට වැඩ කරන්න දෙන්නේ නැත්නම් මේ ස්වාධීන කොමිසම ඉල්ලාසු.
Several leaders of the opposition parties in Sri Lanka, led by opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, met with ambassadors and delegates representing 12 countries in Colombo on Wednesday evening. The discussion was mainly focused on Sri Lanka's democracy, constitution and the local government election.
We heard that ambassadors gathered at the Colombo Club last night and they discussed about delaying the funds from the IMF. I was told by a media institution, If this is not true, you can tell what happened during that discussion. Reveal this to the House today. They have been requested to implement this under strict conditions. Please don't do this, especially at a time when the people are severely inconvenienced. We met the ambassadors. The joint opposition was present there. We discussed. There's nothing to hide. The main topic we discussed was the postponement of the local government elections. Elections should be held on time according to the ICCPR. Not only the Samagi Jana Balavege and the Samagi Jana Alliance, the MPs once represented the Sri Lanka Podu Jana Peramuna also met with this delegation. Whenever we meet foreign ambassadors and representatives, we have never interrogated the procedure that should be done internally in the country. Therefore, we also have the right to expedite the election process by holding discussions with ambassadors. At no time did we ask the IMF to increase the conditions on their assistance. We actually thanked them. All our bilateral creditors were present there. We thank them for the decision they took for the benefit of our country. We never asked them to tighten the conditions. The Prime Minister is left helpless now. Mahinda is waiting to be appointed as the Prime Minister again. So don't blame us for the internal crisis of the government.
Former Sri Lankan President Maithripala Sirisena has called for the formation of an all-party government.
We have not abandoned the call for an all-party government. Our response to the President's proposal is to form an all-party government. In that process, corruption, fraud, theft and nepotism must be removed, and untainted individuals need to be included to form the government. This is the way to build the country. You cannot achieve that goal with an ex-parte presidential attire.
The Sri Lanka Podu Jana Peramuna also commented on an all-party government.
Instead of dividing ourselves based on parties, colors, race and so on, and instead of yelling out in streets for an election and ways to gain power, we all need to come and work together. The time is now for everyone to take up the responsibility. This has to come from the President and the backbench MPs. Let's bring back former Agriculture Minister Andrukumara Disanayaka to see if he is actually talented as they claim. He can be given the premiership or a similar post for this.
Andrukumara Disanayaka denna merate agramatya durayak upa agramatya durayak
National organizer of the SLPP, Basil Rajapaksa, held discussions with the top brass of the SLPP regarding strengthening the party at the grassroots level. Those who attended the meeting said that discussions were held on organizing an SLPP May Day rally.
Our district conveners attended this discussion with the founder of our party and spoke about how we are to face the upcoming elections and on restructuring the party at the grassroots level. We are going from village to village and holding discussions with them. That is very successful. People in villages accord a warm welcome to our members. We have decided to organize our main May Day rally.
අතිසාර්ථක මේ දිනයක් පවත්වන්න තමයි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ. ඒක දැවන්ත කියන ලේබල් එකේ අපිට යන්නේ නැහැ. ඔව් දැවන්ත නෑ දැවන්ත හැටියට යන්නේ. අපි පුළුවන් කියන දේ නේද කරන්නේ. දැවන්ත හැටියට තව ඕන වැඩක් කරන්න පොහොත්. මම හිතනවා ජනතාව කැමැත්තෙන් ඉන්නේ. ඔව් කැමැත්තෙන් ඉන්නේ. බලෙන් ගෙන්න බෑනේ. සෙනඟ කියලා තුවක්ක කොළුවට දාලා බලෙන් ගෙන්න බෑනේ. සෙනගෙන්නේ කැමැත්තෙන්. දලවසේ කොහෙද කරන්නේ තමයි. ඒක ඉදිරියදී අපි කියන්නම් කොහෙද කියලා. බේරවැව වට එහෙම මොකක් හරි පිටින්. බේරවැවෙත් යන්න පුළුවන්. බේරවැවෙත් වතුර අඩුයිනේ ගහලා ඉවරලා උද්ඝෝෂණ වලට. එහෙනම් බේරවැව වුණත් තියන්න පුළුවන්. අපිට ඒ ගැටලුවක් නැහැ ස්ටේජ් එකක් ගහලා. එච්චර අමාරු දේවල් නෙමෙයි අපේ පක්ෂේට. බේරවැවෙන් මත හොඳට උද්ඝෝෂණ වල. එහෙම කියන්නේ අනුර දිසානායක එහෙම කියන හොඳ දෙයක්. අසුචිත් ත්‍රිස්ස කරනවා කියලා සමහරු කියන්නේ. වෙන්නත් පුළුවන් අපි දන්නේ නැහැ එහෙම කියනවා. හැබැයි විපක්ෂ ඉන්නකොට මේ රාජ්‍යවල කිනියම් පිළිබඳව විවේචනය කරලා නෑ විවේචනය නෙමෙයි අපි
We are the same even when we are in government. Mahinda Rajapaksa took back Sri Lankan Airlines that was sold. He took back the gas company. That is our policy. But as a country, when we get stuck, we will have to even do some things that we don't like. In the future, we will analyze these decisions as a party.
The state-owned enterprises restructuring unit of the Finance Ministry announced that a decision has been reached for the divestment of shares held by the state of 7 enterprises based on a cabinet decision reached on the 13th of March 2023.
The State-owned enterprises restructuring unit of the Finance Ministry announced that a decision has been reached for the divestment of shares held by the state of several enterprises based on a cabinet decision reached on the 13th March 2023. The state-owned enterprises that will undergo the divestment process are as follows: Sri Lankan Airlines and Sri Lankan Catering, Sri Lanka Telecom PLC, Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation Limited, Canville Holdings Private Limited, Grand Hyatt Colombo, Hotel Developers Lanka Private Limited, Hilton Hotel Colombo, Litrogas Terminal Lanka Private Limited and Litrogas Lanka Limited, Lanka Hospitals PLC. The divestment is to be implemented by the State-owned enterprises restructuring unit under the Ministry of Finance, Economic Stabilization and National Policies. Those consultants will provide the necessary support to dispose of these businesses by conducting proper evaluation and investigation activities on behalf of the seller and preparing a digital database, transaction strategies and marketing strategies. Accordingly, in the future, advertisements will be published in the local and international media for the announcement of consent and the process of calling for proposals related to the sale of government shares in these state enterprises.
The debate on the agreement with the IMF continued in Parliament today. Discussions focused on the sale of national assets.
The issues surrounding state institutions is a serious issue that we must discuss and resolve. The essential nature of these institutions should be looked into. I believe that this Parliament can decide on whether or not the government should continue to remain in the hotel industry. The Buhar company was taken over by the government. Since the government did not need to run that company, President J.R. Jayawardena privatized it. It was privatized to the Jatika Sevaka Sangamaya. It is then that there is transparency. When we suggested that we need to go to the IMF, we were reprimanded, and you said that this is our country and we are going to do it the way we want it. Then you took stupid decisions and pushed the country into bankruptcy. I thank our former leader, the president, who has now made these very same people to praise the IMF and praise the man who they once called mastermind behind the central bank scam as their savior. Getting this loan is similar to a situation where the father has gambled and lost all his money, and when the children are starving, the mother going to the bank and getting a loan. When that loan was approved, the children are lighting firecrackers. That is what has happened. Ranil Wickremesinghe is showing this loan and doing the same thing that Gotabaya Rajapaksa did by showing that snake. It is the same group of people who ate milk rice when Gotabaya showed that snake are now lighting firecrackers when the loan was approved. Ranil and Rajapaksa should have united before. If that has happened, this country would have developed even more. When we get this loan, our inflation reduces, prices of goods reduce, gas price reduce, electricity prices reduce, interest rates will also go down. The people in the country will get something positive. Just because we get this IMF loan, it does not mean that the issues in the country will be resolved. Just because the queues are no more, that does not mean that the country has developed. We are very sad when we see some intellectuals here saying these sort of things. Sarath Fonseca said that you cannot do this with the IMF. Dr. Harsha De Silva is seated next to me. I would like to ask him whether there is a difference in opinion between him and Dr. Harsha De Silva. We know that there is no money in the treasury. Even in house, the usual practice is to get a loan. I have no argument against that, but I know that Lebanon has been under an IMF program for about 3 years. The finance minister of Greece itself has said that they have gone to the IMF on several occasions and it is pointless. Under the IMF conditions, the lives of the poor people collapsed and the burden on them continue to increase. He said that there is no progress beside that. Some are saying that we were the ones who first suggested to go to the IMF, but when they are asked to come and take over the Minister of Finance, they are imposing conditions. They are imposing these conditions because they don't want to take up that responsibility. Why is that? Parliamentarian Marik Kar 2 weeks ago said in Parliament that the IMF deal is not going to come in March and that it is not even going to come in December. They said that the IMF will not give a loan to a person who who does not have a mandate. They said that this is a government that does not respect democracy and therefore we won't get this loan. Based on that argument, you will have to now accept that the IMF granted this loan because the leaders has the mandate of the people and because this is a government that values democracy. If you helped us instead of agitating the people and the trade unions, we would have got this loan in January. The opposition delayed this. We remember that this decision to go to the IMF was taken during the time when Basil Rajapaksa was the Minister of Finance. This is not a decision that Ranil Wickremesinghe took when he assumed office. It is clear today that the electricity tariff were increased, professionals were taxed and gas prices were increased to satisfy this condition of cost-reflecting pricing. These conditions are clearly indicated in pages 107, 108 and 109 of this IMF document that has about 150 pages. After the country was brought to a situation where our debt cannot be repaid, the burden has now been shifted on the people. There are several politicians in our country who are controlled by embassies. Now we are trying to sell off Sri Lanka Telecom, which is a profit-making institution, to Subhaskaran Ali Raja. You are going to sell off the government shares in Lanka Hospital also to Subhaskaran Ali Raja. In the end, all profit-making institutions will be sold off while the people have to continue to shoulder the burden of the loss-making state institutions.
Sri Lanka has received diesel for farmers from China, fertilizer for farming from the United States, and eggs for consumers from India.
The diesel donated by China is currently being distributed to the farmers of Sri Lanka. Diesel was distributed in many areas in the last few days, and the members of the Nochiyagama Farmers Organisation in Anuradhapura visited the agrarian office and stated that they have not yet received the fuel quota.
We were given tokens by the officials. I was in line at a filling station for 4 days. There were some with barrels. After filling them, they say there is no fuel. The machine requires fuel for 2.5 acres. The government is giving 15 litres of fuel. They ask us to bring the QR code and come. We cannot look for QR codes every day. We don't want to waste time. Just give us the fuel. We have been sent documents from the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation to issue 52,600 litres of fuel to farmers. We have received about 21,000 litres and we have distributed them to farmers without any deficiency. We stored the fuel for the farmers in a separate pump on one side. We only used it to issue fuel to farmers. Our reserves were elsewhere and we used them for vehicles. In this regard, I have to say that if we get the fuel for the farmers today, we will start distributing them. If we get it tomorrow, we will start the distribution tomorrow. The issue is not from our end.
Triple Super Phosphate Fertilizer or TSP Fertilizer, funded by the United States Agency for International Development and procured by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, was deployed for distribution free of charge to farmers. Fertilizer was issued to farmers at the Ambilipiti Agrarian Services Centre. Over 100 farmers were symbolically issued fertilizer at the Rajangane Divisional Secretary. A shipment of eggs from India imported by the Sri Lanka State Trading Corporation reached the Colombo port on Thursday. After subjecting samples for tests across 3 days, these eggs are expected to be released to the local market.
The first consignment of eggs has reached the Colombo port. They have requested for 3 days to conduct the test. There are no eggs in the country today. 8 out of 10 shops in the country don't have stocks of egg. Even Parliament doesn't have eggs. Parliament has not received eggs for the past 2 weeks. I am doing my duty.
An
egg in our country weighs about 50 to 55 grams. An egg imported from India usually weighs about 30 to 35 grams. Not a single parliamentarian will weigh an egg before purchasing it. You are repeating what the poultry producers are telling you. When Sri Lanka has issues, we always turn towards India. Our hens don't always lay egg weighing 55 grams and the hens in India don't always lay eggs weighing 35 grams.
We'll bring you more news after this short commercial break. You're watching Primetime News on TV1. Stay tuned.
Newsfirst. Main sponsor.
23% for 2 months, 25% for 4 months. Valuable FD.
අපේ රහට නියම කාට
23% for 2 months, 25% for 4 months. Valuable FD.
Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe said that he will be compelled to submit a proposal to Parliament to make schools an essential service if academic activities are continuously disrupted.
The national ceremony to distribute school textbooks and uniforms free of charge to students and student monks by the Ministry of Education, which was held at Sangamita Balika Vidyalaya in Colombo. School uniforms for the year 2023 were received as a grant from the Chinese government, and school textbooks were printed by the Department of Government Printing and local suppliers using raw materials obtained with Indian assistance. The President symbolically awarded textbooks and uniforms to 40 student monks, Silmata and students.
Education needs to be exemplary. School principals and teachers must set that example, and they cannot distance themselves. Schools cannot be divided due to the actions of society, teachers and the principals. Everyone must move together. We cannot stop education or the examinations. We cannot sabotage it. I believe that the problems in the education sector can be resolved quickly through discussions, failing which I will have to submit a bill to Parliament to make schools an essential service. Then we can debate it. I will not allow the school children of Sri Lanka to be held hostage for various reasons.
School textbooks and uniforms for school students in the Homagama zone were distributed by parliamentarian Jagat Kumara at the Sri Ratanasara Mahavidyalaya in Padukka today.
The Ceylon Teachers Services Union alleges that some parties are fulfilling their political interest under the guise of giving books and uniforms to children.
Uniforms and textbook distribution program have been organized across the country. These uniforms and textbooks have not been given to the schools yet. A situation has been created in this country where it is impossible for political leaders to step out and face the public, especially for those in the government. Now these preparations have been made to create room for the politicians who cannot step out.
The National Water Supply and Drainage Board Trade Union Collective, which is a part to the Professionals Trade Union Collective, engaged in a one-day strike action, including the unjust tax regime. Regional offices were closed and consumer services were not operational.
We always got these allowances and now they are trying to slash them. The government and the administration should be responsible for inconveniencing the public by forcing us to take to the streets. Several breakdowns have been reported and none were addressed. We demand the government and the administration to solve our issues.
The students of the Ragama Medical Faculty staged a protest this afternoon. The students who had marched from the medical faculty to the Ragama town began the protest at the junction, demanding the government's plans to launch private medical colleges be withdrawn.
We would like to remind the government that we are the ones who closed down the Saitam, and even after that, if the government is planning to start a private medical college in Sri Lanka, we clearly want the government to think twice before clashing with the student movement.
The protesters demanded an immediate end to suppression and the immediate release of the arrested students.
The International Relations Unit of the Open University of Sri Lanka has signed a MOU with Essex University in the UK for an arrangement for Open University students to pursue higher education overseas.
Under the International Relations Unit, the Open University of Sri Lanka recently signed an MOU with the Essex University in the United Kingdom to have a pathway arrangement to our own students to proceed with the higher education opportunities in the UK. So therefore, under this agreement, the Open University of Sri Lanka undergraduates, upon completion of the second year of studies, that is called as level 4, will be able to join with the 11 degree programs offered by the Essex University in the UK. Our students as well as incoming inbound students are having much more opportunities in the future to pursue their higher education opportunities and explore the world. We are having that much more employment opportunities in the future.
The MOU between the Open University of Sri Lanka and the Essex University, UK, will not be limited to science undergraduates. It will be open for the management faculty undergraduates in the future. The Vice-Chancellor said students will have the opportunity to proceed to UK once they complete their second year studies.
Up next is Biz First.
Milk powder importers have decided to reduce the prices of imported milk powder with effect from April. Ashoka Bandara, representing the Milk Powder Importers Forum, speaking to Newsfirst, said this decision was reached due to the drop of prices in the global market. Accordingly, the price of 1 kilogram packet of imported milk powder will be reduced by 200 rupees. The price of a 400 gram packet of imported milk powder will be reduced by 80 rupees. At the same time, a 50 kilogram pack of urea fertilizer distributed by private fertilizer companies has been reduced by 7,500 rupees. Accordingly, the price of a 50 kilogram pack of urea fertilizer sold at 18,500 rupees will be reduced to around 11,000 rupees.
President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, President's Council, Salia Piris, addressed a forum in Colombo.
පහුගිය සතියේ අපි ශ්‍රී ලංකා නීතිඥ සංගමයේ හැටියට අපි නිකුත් කරා නිවේදනයක් ජනාධිපති.
As the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, we recently issued a statement. It was not merely a statement. We in fact wrote to the President and the Constitutional Council. We said that a person with a positive attitude, unblemished character and does not have any human rights cases against him must be appointed as the next Inspector General of Police. Thereafter, I heard that in certain fora, it was questioned whether councillors who are appearing for criminals can select the next police chief. When proper individuals are not appointed to those positions, these institutions get weakened. That is when the police starts to abuse the law. The institutional issues lead to the main issue in abusing the law, and Sri Lanka police is at top of it. We as councillors strongly oppose the fact that suspects been killed in police custody. Some question why do lawyers even appear for these criminals. However, when those people face an issue, they run to a council. Some of those who raise these concerns will also have to go to a lawyer when they are facing an issue. The criminal justice system is of such where you hear a case and after a trial a punishment is imposed or you are free to go. Can we allow a police officer to determine the life of a person? We will not fold to the post on social media. We will continue with our task.
ඔය දාන පෝස්ට් වලට අපි නම් සැලෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපි අපේ කාර්යය කරගෙන යනවා.
The finale of the HR Think Tank series took place in Colombo on Wednesday. The event was organized by the Association of Human Resource Professionals to continuously uplift the standards of HR practices in Sri Lanka.
The event saw an exclusive line of industry leaders across financial services, ICT, infrastructure and FMCG sector. Many CEOs and heads, experienced professionals from apex bodies of HR associations shared their experiences and expertise in managing and retaining talent during challenging times. A panel discussion was held on the topic Transforming Leaders We Have to the Leaders We Need.
I believe there's maybe more awareness of the importance of providing employees with flexibility to just deal with life. Because I think, the pandemic brought out, I think, a fundamentally different level of awareness of family.
I believe crises are there in different forms and shapes. And it's so easy to get sucked down into all the details and conversations. For hours you can talk, you will never solve it. There are opportunities in crisis. So I probably believe you can't waste that time. It was earlier a question of, autocratic leadership or trying to hold on, micromanage, etc. But times have changed. And one of the fundamental things that we need to revolve around and give the ability to let go is actually to be a trusted partner and also to empower others to be that trusted partner. As leaders, we were taught or we were guided that we need to help others grow. If we didn't have a team that grew and a team that was not empowered to grow so rapidly, lots of things would have come to a standstill. So it's all about, as leaders, we have to enable others to grow. We have to leave a line of succession behind.
The media partner for the event was Newsfirst.
The Canadian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Eric Walsh, met with Eastern Province Governor Anuradha Yahampat in Trincomalee on Thursday.
Eastern Province Governor Anuradha Yahampat informed the Canadian High Commissioner that the recommendations of the expert committee appointed to solve the problems of people who suffered social injustices in the Eastern Province are being implemented very successfully.
We had a visit from the Canadian High Commissioner today in the Eastern Province, and we had a discussion on development programs for the Eastern Province. We informed the High Commissioner that we have appointed a committee for a panel of experts for this purpose, and we have called this panel of experts for social injustices. This panel have analyzed the grievances and have taken steps with the recommendations that's given by the panel of experts to take action to solve this. And this report on social grievances is a report on reconciliation, which we have sent to United Nations as well as other foreign delegates. We have taken steps for reconciliation, and every work that we do it together with all races. So that is reconciliation to us, and we would continue that exactly the same.
Another phase of the LOLC Divisavia program, a community upliftment initiative aiming to empower our own citizens, continued today. Today's program was centered around the Kandy district.
Exercise books and other stationery are being distributed among school children from economically challenged families under the Divisavia program. This worthy initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. School books and stationery were distributed to students of 9 schools in the Pujapitiya division in the Kadugasthoda education zone. The event took place at the Pujapitiya education division. Books and stationery were distributed to students of 5 schools in the Kadugasthoda education zone. The LOLC Divisavia program took place at the Damanukula Primary School, Yatala Primary School, Kalatuava Primary School and Opalla Primary School.
And a look at some news from overseas now. People who identify as gay in Uganda risk life imprisonment after their parliament passed a new bill to crack down on homosexual activity. It also includes the death penalty in certain cases.
The anti-homosexuality bill is one of the toughest pieces of anti-gay legislation in Africa. Homosexual acts are already illegal in Uganda, but this bill introduces many new criminal offences. As well as making merely identifying as gay illegal for the first time, friends, family and members of the community would have a duty to report individuals in same-sex relationships to the authorities. Amnesty International has called the bill appalling, ambiguous and vaguely worded. The White House has warned Uganda of possible economic repercussions if the new law comes into force. It was passed with widespread support in Uganda's parliament on Tuesday evening.
Today is day 2 of the Red Amazons adventure hosted by Sri Lanka.
During this 23rd edition, the Raid Amazons will reveal a new facet of Sri Lanka, which has made it world famous, candy and its tea plantations. Day 2 of the adventure event took place at the Victoria Dam with over 200 competitors pacing down the slopes and canoeing to the finish. The French female contestants were tasked with canoeing a challenging distance of 14 kilometers along the Victoria Dam. 43-year-old Marie Garrett and 44-year-old Charlotte Lindegray emerged victorious at this event by being the first to reach the finish line.
I did a Red Amazon in Vietnam, and I did another red with a lot of canoeing. It's why I came to canoeing. We love Sri Lanka, really, and the people are so nice here.
But we are super happy to be there and to have won this hard step today, because you know that we have several things to do, several sports, and so that's the second day, and so we are really happy.
Raid Amazons is a coveted annual destination adventure event originating from France, which features female athletes competing their way through a range of challenges such as orienteering, mountain biking, canoeing, riding, running and archery.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight. To follow details of these stories and more, you can log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk. I'm Sharon Benedict from the Newsfirst team. Take care. Good night.